Let's just predict step by step what's going to happen when your worry shows up. And you can say to your older child, the thing that we really want to pay attention to is that your worry wants you to avoid. It wants you to stop. It wants you to run away. I am telling you to do the opposite of that, which can feel really difficult, but let's practice stepping in. And you can even say to them, how can we sort of put our toes in the water? What would be a conversation that you could have? What would be something that you can do that, as weird as this sounds, makes the worry show up so you can practice handling it?
Welcome to Flusterclux with Lynn Lyons, where we talk about how to manage those tricky emotions that show up in all families. Serious stuff without being too serious. I'm your co-host, Robin, and I'm Lynn's sister-in-law, and I'm here to ask your questions.
And I'm Lynn Lyons. I'm an anxiety expert, speaker, mom, and author, and I've been a therapist for over 30 years. Parenting can be a flusterclux, and I'm here to help you find your way. And I'll even tell you what to do and what to say.
So, Lynn, I've never been a patient of yours in your practice, even though I've certainly taken advantage of your advice in real life. One of the things you talk about, though, with your clients is the importance of a family's homework.
Yep.
What homework might be a good thing for our listeners to be thinking about that they could do at home?
Yeah. And I think when I talk about homework, it's really about practice, because when we're dealing with fears, when we're dealing with worries, when we're dealing with anxieties, if you don't do things, you're not going to get anywhere because the brain learns experientially. What we're going to talk about today is how in the course of your parenting, and summer is a really good time to experiment with this and to practice this, how do you help your kids with their fears, with their worries? This is really like a do-it-yourself exposure practice that I'm going to talk about today, because people really do want to hear from me sort of the step by step. And it really is about consistency, and it's about doing. Let's talk about handling fears. They could be little fears, normal worries. They can also be those big fears that kids have that prevent you from doing things. Let me just break it down a little bit. Let's just talk about, for example, if you have a child that you know has a known issue. So, for example, they're terrified of bumblebees or bugs, so they won't go outside. Or you're trying to get them to do swimming lessons and they're really afraid of getting in the water. Or you go on vacation, you're at an amusement park, and your child is terrified to go to places where there are a lot of people. Maybe terrified is too strong a word, but you're feeling like, oh my gosh, gotta do this thing, or come on, it's just a bug, or you need to learn how to swim. So what do you do in that instance with your child on your own? What can you do? First of all, there's gonna be some pre-work, right? This is what I call front loading. You have to explain, not in a gazillion words, but in concrete terms, you have to explain, here is what happens when your worry shows up, is that you are setting an alarm off in your brain, and you are really reacting in a way that your poor body thinks, this is an emergency. So we have to retrain your brain. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to step into situations, and it's okay if worry shows up. Now, let me just say parenthetically, what if you're dealing with this with a 3-year-old, right? Or a 4-year-old? You're not going to have this conversation about, listen, you've got this part of your brain that may be too much. But what you can say is, I know that you feel scared when we do this. I know that you get worried, but we're going to practice handling those big worried feelings, right? So you're going to step into it. You're going to give them some indication that this is something that you're going to practice with. So it's not just in the moment. It's setting the stage. It's doing some preparation. Don't talk too much. Don't go over and over and over. Just put it out there. This is something that we're going to do, and we're going to do it together. You want to be supportive and encouraging. Remember, anxiety is anticipatory, so you don't want to build it up like it's a big deal. I want you to be nonchalant about it. This is what we're going to do. So that's the first thing that you're going to do. The second thing that you're going to do is that you're going to do role playing, and you're going to make it a little playful. So let's just take the example of bugs or bumblebees. Say that you've got a little child or even an older child who's so afraid of getting stung by a bee that they won't go to their day camp, they won't go to the pool, they won't even go outside, they won't go in your backyard. Get something to practice with. It doesn't have to be a little pretend bee. You can use a marble. You can use a Tootsie Roll. I don't care what you use, but you're going to practice what you're going to do and how you're going to get closer to this thing and how you're going to help your child manage the feelings that show up and hang with it. If it's a bumblebee, we don't have to go up and hold the bumblebee. You don't want to touch the bumblebee. You just want to get in proximity of it. Practice, for example, putting the fake bumblebee on the kitchen table and then walking by the kitchen table. And Worry is going to show up. What's Worry going to say? Worry's going to say, oh no, oh no. And you're going to say, oh, Worry, that's what you always say. And you're going to practice walking by. The reason that you practice is because truly this is how the brain relearns. And we want to give your child the opportunity to experience that rush of fear, to experience those rush of feelings, and then let it subside over time. This is what exposure therapy is. Bringing your brain, bringing your body into the situation, hanging out long enough for it to subside. So you want to practice. You don't have to do it 100 times. I would do it maybe 10 times. Make it a game, make it playful. Okay, so that's the second step that you're going to do. The other thing that you want to make sure as you're doing this with your child is that you stay away from all of that reassurance safety chatter. Let's just say it's swimming lessons, for example. So you want your child to get into the pool. Maybe you want your child to learn to put their face in the water. What you don't want to do is a lot of that, like, look, you'll be safe. Everything will be okay. Your instructor is very qualified. Nothing bad is going to happen. You're going to be fine. All of that stuff says to your child in sort of a paradoxical way, this is something for you to be concerned about. Because as you're often saying that, your intensity builds up, right? Your language is like, okay, it's going to be okay. There's nothing to be afraid of. The analogy I give is that say you were going out to dinner in a restaurant and you walk into the restaurant, you sit down at the table and the waiter comes up and says to you, I just want to let you know that we are very good at making sure that our food is safe, that we have had many inspections, and that there is no reason to believe that you are going to get food poisoning from this restaurant. You'd be like, okay, thanks. And you'd get up and you'd leave.
You'd get up and leave.
Yeah, you'd get up and leave. So the language you want to use is, we're going to go to this swimming lesson, and it's important that you get into the water. And you know what? Your worry might tell you that you can't do it. I think you can. So we're going to practice, right? Short and sweet.
The goal is to help our kids strengthen the skill of tolerating uncertainty. So if you're constantly giving that reassurance, you're denying them the practice.
Correct. And when you're giving reassurance and you're telling people that they'll be okay, the brain can't help but say, like, why do they keep telling me I'm going to be okay? Is this dangerous? It would be like getting on an airplane. The flight attendant stands up front and says, like, we just want you to know that your pilot is really, really qualified. And even if we hit some bad weather, your pilot really is able to keep you safe. You're going to be like, why are they saying this?
And he got a good night's sleep and he's been sober for 2 weeks.
Yeah, right. He's been really doing well with his program. We haven't had any problems with drinking on the job. He's doing great. We actually did a breathalyzer before he got on the plane. Yeah, I mean, all that stuff. It's like designed to make you feel like things are going to be okay, but it has the opposite effect. So just pay attention to that language that you use. With a bumblebee, for example, you could say, we're going to walk by this bumblebee and everybody's going to mind their own business. The bee's going to mind their own business. You're going to mind their own business. And you can make it a little playful. You can make it a little silly. A little laughter is always a good thing. And then we're going to take a break and I'll tell you what to do if you just have sort of like a temperamentally sort of hesitant child. But if you've got this specific thing, first thing you're going to do is you're going to lay a little bit of the groundwork. You're going to do some role playing that is fun and easy and consistent. It's got to be consistent. You're going to stay away from your safety chatter. And then you're going to actually practice doing it in the real situation.
When we come back, let's also talk about how you adapt this for different age kids thus far. Thrive Market is my go-to for all my grocery and household essentials, and the convenience of getting it all quickly shipped to my doorstep is a huge time saver. I love that I can get all of the specific pantry items that work for my family's food allergies.
You know, I don't love grocery shopping, so the convenience of having it delivered, and they have so many options. I love that on top of the massive savings on each order, I also know they have a price match guarantee. I just know I'm getting the best deals and such a convenient way of shopping.
I love the deals page. I mean, that changes daily and it gives me cash back on so many brands.
Join Thrive Market today and get 30% off your first order plus a free $60 gift.
Go to thrivemarket.com/Flusterclux for 30% off your first order plus a free $60 gift. That's THRIVE market.com/Flusterclux.
thrivemarket.com/Flusterclux.
Lynn.
Yeah.
When I was giving my son his Haya Health vitamin yesterday morning before school, I was laughing, thinking of your husband giving you your Haya Health vitamin with your coffee.
He is very good at doling out the Haya Health vitamins, and he was reading about it, about how much sugar is in other kids' vitamins. And he was really astounded by that information and loved the fact that these vitamins don't have sugar in them. They don't have junk in them. They don't have preservatives or additives. So it made him love Haya vitamins even more.
Haya is made with zero sugar, zero gummy junk, and yet it tastes great and it's perfect for picky eaters as well as clearly everyone in our family of all ages.
That's right. It provides full body nourishment and it gives it to kids with a yummy taste they love.
It's non-GMO, vegan, dairy-free, allergy-free, gluten-free, nut-free, and everything else you can imagine. And Haya is designed for kids of all ages, sent straight to your door, so parents have one less thing to worry about.
I just love them. And, you know, we're grown-ups and I love them.
We worked out a special deal with Haya for their best-selling children's vitamin. Receive 50% off your first order. To claim this deal, you must go to hayahealth.com/fluster. This deal is not available on their regular website.
So go to hayahealth.com/fluster and get your kids and your husband the full body nourishment they need to grow into healthy adults. Okay, we're back. Okay, so now you've got this plan. Now, what if your child is older? What if you're dealing with a teenager issue, for example, like maybe going for a job interview or they're taking driver's ed or they have to order in a restaurant, right? Things that older kids have difficulty with. You just want to bump your language up and you want to be really direct. You want to say, look, you have a pattern, or we as a family have a pattern of creating emergency reactions when it's not an emergency, of telling stories about how badly this is going to go without really giving you an opportunity to practice. What we want you and your teenager to recognize is that avoidance begets avoidance because you never get the opportunity to retell the story. With an older child, same thing applies. We're going to lay the groundwork. Maybe we're going to do some role playing. So say you have a child who's having difficulty speaking to adults, or it's time for them to go to a new place or do a new thing. It may be driver's ed. It may be a job. You can do some role playing with them. You can have them walk through with you what that conversation will sound like. You want the brain to practice. I cannot emphasize enough that the brain learns experientially. It's about doing. And role playing in practice is doing. It's pre-doing. So you want to bump that language up.
How do you draw the line in the role playing? Because I have a feeling if you were to grade all of us as parents doing the role playing, some of us would do it better than others. You always say ask the how questions. So how do you role play where you're still giving them the room to practice versus like kind of just spoon feeding everything and telling them that you want it done this way?
Okay, so this is how a role play might go. I'll play both characters. You know that your child has difficulty separating or has difficulty stepping into new things. So you say, so Robin, you'll be the cute little kid. So I say, Robin, now remember, tomorrow we're going to go to your swimming lesson. So what do you think Worry is going to say when it's time to go to your swimming lesson?
I don't want to go to my swimming lesson.
Right. That's what it's probably going to say. And it might get really big. It might even say it a little bit like, I don't want to go to my swimming lesson. Like it might say it nicely, but it might say it kind of big and kind of loud. So we're going to practice going to your swimming lesson. Okay. We're driving in the car. Let's pretend we're driving in the car, right? Oh, here comes Worry. Worry saying, you can't do this. This is an emergency. I don't want to go to the swimming lesson. And so we're going to say back to Worry, Worry, thanks for sharing. And we're going to get to your swimming lesson. And what do you think is going to happen when it's time to meet your swim instructor? What do you think is going to happen when we see your teacher?
The voice is going to get louder?
It is. It's going to get louder. And remember also that sometimes you tell me that your tummy hurts. So we know that might happen too. You might say, oh, my tummy hurts. So we know that's going to happen. And what we're going to do is we're just going to keep moving forward. And even though we know the worry is there, we're going to tell the worry that it's not in charge. So let's practice that and then just go through. Make a little scenario in your house. You can make a pillow as the swim instructor and practice. You are going to offer encouragement and reminders. Stay away from the safety chatter. So you're going to get to the edge of the pool. Now, what happens then if the kid says like, I'm not doing it, and they freak out? So you step back a little and you say, okay, so let's take a breath. Let's take a moment. Here's Worry. And then parent, you can talk to Worry. You can say, Worry, we knew you were going to show up. We knew this is exactly what you're going to do. So now we're going to step forward again. Parents, you can say to your child, this is called exposure therapy. And what we're doing is we're retraining your brain. We're practicing doing this thing. So let's think, how could we practice right now? Okay. Sometimes it takes more than one practice. I wish it were so easy that if you have a child that was afraid of swimming lessons and then they'd, yay, jump in the water. I don't think that's very common. How can we practice? If you have a little child, you are taking it a step at a time. You are being consistent. You are being encouraging. You are keeping yourself vanilla ice cream, right? You are keeping yourself very even, and you're just going to keep working at it. It is not helpful at all if you start to panic, if you start feeling embarrassed. Oh my gosh, my kid's not getting in the swimming lesson. What am I going to do? They're supposed to be doing this. You also really want to avoid saying things like, it's really important that you learn how to swim because it's very dangerous if you don't know how to swim. Anything like that. Give yourself a little patience, a little encouragement as well, step by step. You're going to do the role play. You're going to use that language. The other thing you can do with a role play too is you can switch roles so that your child is now playing the parent or the swim instructor and you are playing the scared child. They have fun. They like doing that. All of that is really helpful. If you are dealing with an older child, you want them to go to their driver's ed or you want them to be able to assert themselves. They have to have a conversation with somebody. Same thing. Practice the conversation, name the worry, and then say, let's just walk through this and let's just predict step by step what's going to happen when your worry shows up. And you can say to your older child, the thing that we really want to pay attention to is that your worry wants you to avoid. It wants you to stop. It wants you to run away. I am telling you to do the opposite of that, which can feel really difficult, but let's practice stepping in. And you can even say to them, how can we sort of put our toes in the water? What would be a conversation that you could have? What would be something that you can do that, as weird as this sounds, makes the worry show up so you can practice handling it? This is what I do with my clients. Yeah.
We did the series last summer on the 7 puzzle pieces that disrupt anxiety. So I'm just thinking about a lot of your foundational approaches, and you talk about bridging past successes or probably enticing future rewards. In that conversation, how would that sound?
If you have little kids, offering a little bit of a reward, right? My husband always says it's bribery. Okay, whatever. But it's positive incentive is that you might want to say to them, look, I know this is really hard for you to walk by the bush where the bumblebees are. So let's make it a game. and I'm going to put your favorite little action figure at the end of the walkway. And let's see if we can walk past the bush with the bumblebees and get the action figure. And you can say, worry does not want you to have any fun. It doesn't want you to do anything. So let's practice walking by knowing that we're going to get a little reward at the end. So you can do that with little kids. The more playful you make this, the more you make it a game rather than something that, oh God, we have to do this, the better off you'll be. With older kids, you just really want to talk to them very directly about the fact that developing these skills makes their life easier. Right now it's the summertime. So you can imagine that I have teenagers that I'm talking to that are getting ready to go to college. And we're working on these skills. What is the benefit of you practicing this? What is the goal that you're going to achieve? Are you going to be able to get your driver's license? Are you going to be able to have easier conversations with people? I want to motivate them, usually in a social realm. The thing that is so, so important is they know that they're going to have these feelings. That's the mistake that everybody makes, is that they say, we're going to do this so that you feel calm and confident. Nope, we're going to do this so you get used to the worry showing up and you keep moving through it. And that's what exposure therapy does.
Let me ask you this question, because I don't feel like we've talked about this so much. If I were to have a little 6-year-old afraid to go to swimming lessons, let's go back to the younger child. We could talk about the teen, it's relevant too. But in addition to saying you weren't really that excited to go to gymnastics, but think of all the friends you made and the fun that you had. I'm thinking about Sally by the end of the summer, who's gotten to be a really great swimmer for her hard work and taking risks to learn to swim. And I'm thinking about our family at this lazy river where we're floating down, and because you're swimming, you're going to swim ahead and you're going to go underwater and you're going to squeeze dad's toes that are hanging off the inflatable inner tube. And we're going to think that's so silly because you're such a good swimmer at that point. You've learned to do that, or like creating like a scene or.
Yeah, I might make a recording for a child. I do this with adults too. So that's called future progression. So you are predicting for the child and you are helping their brain imagine what it's going to be like once they've acquired this skill or once they've been able to move past that. So that's absolutely something that you can do. You can write a story, you can tell a story. Recording things on your phone is really helpful. So if the child hears their own voice. So when you learn to swim, right? So that's called seeding. When you learn to swim, what do you think is going to be the fun thing that you're going to be able to do once you get into that pool, and then have them say it so they can listen back to it? So that's a really good strategy that I use a lot. I use it with adults too, actually. It's the ability to let the brain go forward in time and create the outcome that you want. Absolutely, that's a fun thing to do. Now, let me talk for a minute about what happens when it goes horribly wrong. So let's just say, parent, that you do this role playing with a bumblebee or the swimming lesson. And remember, you can role play, like you can create a little swimming pool in your house. You can have them jump off the side of the bed and you catch them, right? So you do all this and you're feeling like, oh my gosh, I am so awesome at doing this. I am creating this great thing. And then you get to the actual exposure practice and your child is like NFW. And maybe they freak out. Maybe they have a temper tantrum. Maybe they cry and scream. That's okay. You're practicing this. It's all right. So you want to back it up a little bit. You want to back it up. In that moment, remember, when they're freaking out, there's not a lot of learning going on. Just take your time. Maybe you want to take a break. You say, let's go over here for 5 minutes. Movement is really helpful. So if you have a child that's really freaking out, that means that their energy is up because they've gotten that little shot of activation. So you can have them move around. That's okay. And then give it another try. The best outcomes with this are when you give yourself room to practice, that you start with big hopes and low expectations. You know what I mean? Like you're like, we're going to be able to do this. And we know it's going to be tricky.
But let's go back, because you've pulled the child at the swimming lesson. All the listeners, including myself, were like, wait, what do we say? Pull the child over to the side of the pool because it did not go well. And you say, like, let's take a break. What are the words next?
You might say, okay, so we knew worry was going to show up, didn't we? And boy, worry loves to make things as an emergency. So let's just take a few minutes to get our body a little more regulated, I very rarely say, let's calm down, right? I just don't like that language, but let's take some time to get our feet back under us. Let's take some time to get our thinking brain back where we need to be. And maybe let's watch a little bit. Let's see what the other kids are doing. Let's see how it's going. So let's take a few minutes to watch, and then we're going to try it again. So you let me know, right? In a few minutes, you let me know we're going to try it again. And then you might even ask them, what do you think we can do this time? What do you think we can do? Can we walk to the edge of the pool? Can we sit on the edge of the pool and put our feet in? I went through this with one of my nieces who was afraid to get into the water, and she wasn't doing her swimming lessons. So I sat on the edge of the pool with her. I got into the water and I said, what's your worry going to say? And we talked about it. And I said, let's yell loud at the worry. And we yelled at the worry. She's actually like 20 years old now. So this is when she was really little. And we acted it out sitting on the side of the pool. And then I took her into the water with me, and she's like wrapping her arms around me. And I'm like, let's yell at that worry, like, worry, knock it off, and rah. And we just played and played and played. I let her wrap her arms around me and hang on to me. That was okay. And we just took it step by step by step. What I kept modeling for her was that I wasn't intimidated by her worry. I wasn't intimidated by her fear. I knew exactly what was going on. I stayed playful. It's just step by step by step, right? So it maybe you say to your child, okay, so we're going to hang out at the pool. What do you think we can do that's going to show worry that worry is not the boss? And see what they come up with. And if they say, I don't know, or if they say, I'm leaving, you say, oh, of course worry wants to leave. You just repeat that question. What do you think we can do that can give your brain and your body a chance to learn? What do you think we could do? Hang in there. Take your time. One of the times when people are working with their kids on a fear, or they're working with them on this hesitancy, when the clock is ticking, when you as a parent feel a lot of pressure that you have to get it done, things don't go very well.
I was just about to say that. I was about to say, give us a pep talk, because like you said, sometimes parents' feelings start interfering with the ability to help the child, because you're embarrassed in front of the other parents that you've got, in air quotes, that kid, right? And then that makes things challenging for you. The kids pick up on your discomfort. Let's talk about that when we get back, of how do we learn to sort of be there and keep our focus.
Hey everybody, this is Robin at Flusterclux. When Lynn and I are not having a great time recording our podcast on the weekends, I have a day job. I have a travel magazine for families. So if you're thinking about a 2023 family vacation, don't plan anything without reading our guides to the best Disney hotels, the best way to get a Disney guide for less, and everything you need to know about booking a Disney cruise. Luxe Recess has been since 2014 the go-to place for parents to read about luxury travel, with honest reviews written for parents by parents. Check it out. The links are in the show notes for our best guides to Florida travel for your spring break in 2023. That's luxerecess.com. LuxeRecess.com.
Okay, so now back to the show. Okay, so the issue is, like, here you're thinking this, okay, like, I'm going to really work on this, and we're going to make some progress with this. And then you go to the pool, or you go to the day camp, or you walk out the door, and things don't go well. And immediately the things that go through your mind is, I'm not doing this correctly. I'm screwing this up. I'm so embarrassed. People are looking at me. I've already paid for this tennis lesson. All the things that make your anxiety and your embarrassment and your worry jack up. It is really helpful if you can, ahead of time, just say to whoever you're engaging with, it might be to the other parents, say you're going to a birthday party or their swimming lessons, that you say to the other adult, this is something we're working on. And so this could be a little tricky at first, but we're working on something. We got this. So let the other parents know that you have a plan, like sort of flaunt your expertise a little bit. Like, yeah, we got this. We know worry is going to show up and we're working on it. We're doing a little exposure therapy here. So pay you no mind, other people. just sort of put it out there so that people are watching you do this and they're like, oh, look, she's got a plan, or, oh, look, she knew her kid was going to freak out. And then that way it takes some of the pressure off of you.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
And then someone else might say, if you say, we're working on a little exposure therapy and we're getting comfortable, getting uncomfortable, someone would be like, do you listen to Flusterclux?
Yeah. Oh, really? You're doing that? Oh, how did you know what to do? Oh, well, we listened to this episode on Flusterclux that really helped us walk through. So I think sort of one of the main messages with this is that it takes time and it takes practice. And what happens when I'm working with families or when I'm giving this information to people is that they have the expectation that they're going to go and do it and it's going to go great. I'm working with a family now. It's a teenager, and I've met with the family one time, and the mom has already emailed me that, this isn't working. Slow your roll here, right? Like, it's okay. I've met with her one time. I've met with you one time. So give yourself some time, give yourself some patience. This is about consistency, and let other people know that you're working on it. So they're observing you, and they might even be in admiration of how you're doing this rather than you needing to feel so embarrassed. And then the other thing I just want to talk about briefly is that if you've got a child that is just temperamentally a little shyer, they take a little more time to warm up, that they get overwhelmed easily, that this is something that you're dealing with on a consistent basis, the same rules apply. Do that role playing. This applies to going back to school too. It's not just a summertime thing, but think about this as a long-term project in which you are helping your child build skills. Take the pressure off. You go to a birthday party, your little child is hanging on your leg. They're seeing all the other kids around. You know that they're going to have difficulty joining in. Think, okay, so here's my opportunity to practice, and let yourself take little steps. Let your child take little steps, and give yourself credit. Give your child credit when they move towards something. If they hang on your leg for 20 minutes and then they go and join in something, that's a success. Give yourself the time, the patience, and the consistency to work on this, and really, really pull back on the time pressure, the judgment from other parents, the idea that you have to get them to do it right away. Take your time. It's okay. It's a long-term project, and that's okay.
I love that mantra. I'm going to restate it, that when you're going to be around other parents managing a child who's really having a big reaction, I think a calm, even fake it till you make it, as you would say, calm smile. We're working on this. And then don't say anything else. You owe nobody else any explanation because we talk too much.
We do talk too much.
Yeah. If we just learn to say that, make eye contact and smile, they will back off and they will not be judging. They know you've got the plan. And I think that's a really helpful thing to just pull out of your back pocket.
Yeah. And I think it's important to just emphasize that when we're dealing with this, in general, people talk too much. Too much instruction, too much language, too much. An example might be, say you're trying to get your child to get into the swimming pool. You can say to them, let's just sit together on the edge of the pool and dangle our feet in the water. And let's just sit here for a few minutes and we don't have to say a thing. And we're just going to let our brain get a hold of this a little bit. Let's just sit together. Right? And you're modeling that for them, that we can sit even in silence, or you can talk about something else, but just take the intensity down. Take the panic down and take the language down. Just everybody take it down.
So in terms of wrapping this up with older kids, and you've got a teenager who's supposed to go and apply for a job, and even getting them to go and get the application, because maybe there's a paper application. Do they even do paper applications anymore, or is it all online?
Most of it's online, but I'll tell you, with my experience with all of these teenagers applying for jobs, you really got to show up in person, because they apply online and then they don't get a phone call back and they're like, well, I guess I didn't have a job. You want them to show up. You want them to go in and introduce themselves. Sometimes that's the place that really makes it difficult.
I can imagine. It's like if you ever want to be mean to a teenager or another millennial, just make them pick up the phone and talk to somebody.
Oh, yeah. I was just talking to my colleague, Chris, and he works with college students, high school and college students. he says that none of his clients will call him on the phone. They absolutely will not have a phone conversation, which is interesting, isn't it? So you were saying they refuse to do it. We get to the place where they refuse to do it. That's a hard place to be. Passivity beats me every time. No is the calling card of anxious avoidance. Nope, not going to do it. It means that with older kids, just like you were saying before, Robin, we want to put the carrot in front of them and get them to sort of recognize that this is an important skill for them to develop for their future. If you have a kid, and look, I'm talking about do it yourself. If you've got a kid who's refusing to go to school, who's refusing to leave the house, who's not engaging in what we would say the normal activities of an adolescent developing, then that's when it's time to sort of call in professional help. You need some more coaching. The do it yourself stuff is really helpful. If you're with somebody, you've got to be doing stuff between appointments. And it's also good when you see these things sort of showing up, but they're not full blown problems that particularly with a teenager, you're really concerned about. It's hard to do it yourself with a teenager. Even they may have been doing this avoidance thing for years and years and years. That may mean you've got to call in the professional help for sure.
That's a great point. When is do it yourself appropriate and when isn't it?
Correct. Yeah. Think of an electrician, right? So there are some do it yourself things that you can really do in your house with electricity. And then other times it's really important to call in a professional. Yeah. Same thing.
Yeah. The plastic light plates I will change, and I will change light bulbs.
Mm-hmm.
Everything else, call the professional.
I can reset and unclog my garbage disposal.
Oh, yeah. No, plumbing, I'm a little more handy.
Oh, plumbing. Well, something went down my bathroom drain the other day. Not anything really important. It was just like a little cap of a cream. So using a small pair of scissors, some chopsticks, and this broken metal like kebab thing that I found in my drawer, I was able to extract the little cap, which I really felt like I could be a neurosurgeon. Like it was a delicate operation. It was like that game Operation, that we used to play.
Yeah, with really big tweezers.
Yeah, really big tweezers. But I used the tools I found in my messy silverware drawer, and I successfully performed the operation.
If you were a child of your brother, my husband, you know what he always says to the kids, his little refrain, well, that's being resourceful.
Yes, I was very resourceful. And I'll tell you, I was patient. I was encouraging with myself. It took a few tries, but I got the little cap out of my sink. So there you go, people. Little inspiration for you.
If this episode was helpful to you, you can join our Facebook community, and we'd love it if you left a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of Flusterclux. Bye, Robin.
Bye, Lynn.
Hey, are you a parent of a teenager? Are you feeling overwhelmed about how to be what they need while also holding limits and boundaries that keep them safe? Are you tired of conversations that negate how messy this season of parenting is? Well, I've got you. My name is Casey O'Rourke. I am a positive discipline trainer, parent coach, and the host of the Joyful Courage podcast. Every week, I come to you with an interview digging into tough topics with experts I trust and solo shows that go deep into the personal growth and mindset needed to raise teens in a way that grows them into confident, capable young people. I am not afraid of getting real about the intersection of conscious parenting and the teen years, while also bringing in vulnerability, humor, and lightness. I'm walking the path with you and honored to serve. Listen to Joyful Courage on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you consume podcasts.